To all the good people all around the world, Youth Now on Track Services officially welcomes you to day two of the 2020 Youth Leadership and Empowerment Forum Conference. Can I please get a round of applause and some love in the chat from everyone that is joining us here tonight? Yes, 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 yes. Once again, I can already feel the love and energy from everyone all around the globe. See, for those who don't know me, my name is Brian Jose Boateng, and I'll be your moderator for tonight's event. And for those who are joining us for the very first time, this is a gist of what tonight and last night was all about. See, Why Not Services brings to you Canada's greatest youth leadership forum and expo because it takes a village to raise a child. This nonprofit organization stands by that belief as they aim to impact and better the lives of at-risk youth, as well as those from low-income families through many of their programs and initiatives. Events such as these, with a goal of positively empowering the youth of tomorrow, will surely help in reducing risk factors that increase the chances of youth interfering with the law, alleviate stress from peer pressure, help to build coping skills, to find purpose and redirect energy to make positive choices for the future in a secure environment. See, yesterday, the wonderful Marian Ashton broke down the importance of valuing the one life that we got as she discussed youth empowerment and environmental sustainability. The amazing Tom Rakocevic blessed us with the sincere and kind words of support for this event and the youth. Thank you so much, Tom, because sometimes the most important thing that any young kid growing up in today's society can hear is that someone is believing in them through every step of the way. And last but not least, the passionate Ijeoma Obeki taught us on how we can manage the stress we have endured due to COVID-19, while reminding us how severe and dangerous this virus is, and why we should all come together as one and show this virus how cooperative and strong the human race truly is. See, from 4 to 5 p.m. at Eastern Standard Time, we will not only discuss youth and financial literacy, youth technology and artificial intelligence, youth leadership and succession planning, and climate change. We will not just discuss that, but we will also provide the solutions that will help conquer the obstacles they bring, while helping each and every single one of you in recognizing your potential to be excellent in this world. I'm sincerely honored to be here today. I'm grateful for all the sponsors that helped us make this event possible, such as Peach, the Toronto Catholic District School Board, the Toronto Police Service, JVS Toronto, Higher Up, Associated Youth Services of Peel, Laborers International Union of North America, For Youth Initiative, the BRIC, Catholic Children's Aid, the City of Toronto, Service Canada, Province of Ontario, and the Toronto Fire Service. If it wasn't for your amazing contribution to the youth of tomorrow, we would not be having this event today, and we would not be having that event, the same event yesterday. And I will not be able to move forward with today's program. So please, would everyone give me the utmost pleasure, do me the honor in welcoming the very first panelist for tonight. She'll be discussing youth and financial literacy. She is a professional and business advisor. Ladies and gentlemen, please give this next panelist a very professional welcome to Ava Denoto.
Thank you. Okay, so for today, we're going to be discussing, or I'm going to be discussing rather, the importance of financial literacy for youth, specifically teenagers up to the 25-year age category. Because I know that finance sometimes can be a little bit boring. It's not the most exciting topic sometimes, or it goes right over our heads. Obviously, with everything that's happening in the world and with all the access that we have to technology, it seems as though the youth of today has a lot more accessibility at their fingertips, but sometimes reading all that online can get a little bit boring. I'm not here to represent any one particular institution. I'm here as a financial professional. It doesn't matter which bank you bank with or which particular products you want to go out and get. I think that the importance here is establishing a good rapport with your financial institution, and the importance of starting a good credit record. Again, I know that it sounds a little bit boring, or blah blah blah. You've heard it sometimes from your teachers, from your parents, from your relatives. But what we're trying to discuss today is the importance of planting a seed, doing things properly in the beginning, because a lot of what we do when we're younger can affect us later on in life. Just with anything that we do, finances is a big part of that. So one thing that I wanted to touch on was the importance of opening up a bank account. It's not to say that you're going to go out if you don't have any employment, you don't have any need to open up a bank account. It's not an absolute must. But seeing as though the government has put out some things like the CERB, now there is just the CRB, if I'm not mistaken, for some folks that are not working, those are still considered incomes. Anybody that is on some sort of disability or annuity or insurance type of program as well, maybe you might not be working, but it's still important that that money gets deposited somewhere. So if you don't have any money coming in on a regular basis, it's not necessarily important that you open up the bank account, only because there may be fees involved. For those of you that are full-time students, whether it is in high school or college or university, trade school, most banks offer a very low fee bank account. If you notice that you're not going to use the account, our recommendation is that you go close it down, just because the service charges will pile up and it'll look bad later on if they had to close it out. If that does happen, which it's happened to the best of us, you just have to go in and pay that fee and then get it restarted again. Okay. Another important component is putting regular deposits in. So for some of you that have a little bit of a cash income, we've got all kinds of cool businesses in the local area, whether it's food, branded clothing, party services. I know that right now, again, because of the COVID-19, we're not under normal operation. So things like the wedding business or the party business, even festivals, music events, it is a lot more controlled right now. But when everything resumes, put some of that money in the bank to show that you've got regular, consistent deposits. Again, the banks are not necessarily interested in lending to the wealthy. It's all about consistency. So if you are putting in small, regular amounts, that says a lot more than someone who walks in and puts in $10,000 or $20,000 at a time. And that's a common misconception, that the banks are only out to help the wealthy. In my 15 years of experience, we've had tons of folks that are low income, low wages, but they've managed to own their own car, own their own property, do great things because they've taken care of their record with their credit. Credit doesn't only extend, of course, to the banking world. It has a lot to do with even things like your cell phone. It has a lot to do with getting a rental place. So for those of you that are on the verge of maybe leaving your family home, maintaining a good credit record is important, because if you don't, it's going to hold you back from something as basic as getting a cell phone contract, something as basic as renting a better place to live or a comfortable surrounding going forward. And not to mention, if you want to purchase a car, if you want to purchase your own apartment, you want to purchase your first starter home, sometimes a mess that we make for $500 will have, some significant consequences when we're looking into the tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that leads me into my next point about credit. So establishing a basic bank account, something for the youth out there. It's not very expensive. Again, I'm not encouraging that someone that's not going to use the account go and open it up, because there's no purpose for that. But if you've got any kind of little side income coming in, maybe sometimes your parents give you some money for bus fare or for lunch. We've got tons of folks that come in and open up a bank account for that. And some people would say, well, what's the point of doing that? Well, that's not really going to affect my credit. It could, because it would show your institution that you've been with the bank for X amount of years. So if, again, one day when you want to purchase a car, purchase a home, they're going to might give you a little bit more preference versus someone who's just showed up literally off the street. So having that first account to kind of build up and make sure that you're using it properly, even throwing in $20 at a time just to keep it active. Moving forward, the next step would be establishing credit. So for a lot of you that are under the age of 18, unfortunately, with any Canadian financial institution, you're not eligible, but 1 month after turning 18, so that's 30 days after your 18th birthday, you can go in and ask for either what's called an overdraft, meaning that if your account goes to zero, they'll give you X amount of credit. Typically, they'll start you off at $300, or you can go in and ask for a student credit card. If you're not a student, that's okay too. But if you are a full-time student in any post-secondary institution, you will get a card for about $1,000, and there's no fee. If you happen to be working, or maybe you're on a break, or you're just trying to figure out what you're going to do, that's okay too. You can still establish good credit. What you would do is you would go in, or you can apply online. Of course, going in person is a little bit different because the advisor could get a little bit more details in person versus online. But you can even do it over the phone with most major banks in Canada. And it takes about a week to get. Most of these cards don't have any annual fees. Beware of these big fancy cards, travel rewards and that. You don't necessarily need that from the get-go. You might want to look into that when you're working full-time, which maybe some of you are. The idea is to use and pay, use and pay. If you go out and max out the full 1,000 from the get-go, that's okay. But what the bank is looking for is that you put something towards it. So I've had numerous conversations, especially with some of the younger people, that maybe their parents or family members, maybe there's a language barrier, maybe there's not so much knowledge about the Canadian banking system. And they'll say, well, nobody ever told me, I didn't have the 1,000 to pay, so I didn't pay it. Well, that's a big mistake, because what you can do is make the minimum payment. Of course, it's always best to pay in full, but given the economic times and some of the challenges that we're facing right now, you might be working 1 month, you're not working the next. Put the minimum payment down. Pay little by little. It's better than not putting anything. Okay. If months and months and months start to pass by and there's no activity, that could definitely hurt your credit. So we just want to make sure that folks are putting in something versus nothing. Years and years of having a credit card, what will happen even after 1 year is, if you're using it properly, you may get an email or marketing offer to increase that limit. Don't get in over your head. Sometimes we take on credit that we don't necessarily need. And what that'll lead into is maybe spending what we don't have. Know yourself. If you know that you're a person that could have a very high limit and you're not going to use it, go right ahead. But if you like to shop, which a lot of us do, maybe just keep it a little bit conservative, especially if your income is not that high. Going forward, once you get established credit, again, it usually takes 6 months to a year. So sometimes the timelines are a little bit lengthy for especially the younger generation, that maybe after getting a credit card, they want to start financing their first vehicle. They want to start, renting a place. Keep in mind that everything takes a little bit of time. So even things like collections, if someone gets in trouble with the phone companies, the banks typically will not give a credit card to them. And sometimes folks get upset about that, and they'll say, well, what does that have to do with me getting a credit card? Well, the message that it's sending to the institution is, if someone can't pay a phone bill of just a couple of $100s, that's a big indicator that they may or may not pay their credit card bill. Now, that's not always the case, because sometimes we want to be kind. We do favors for family and friends. So be very wary of when you lend your name, when you co-sign, when you take out phones for people, when you put your name on the line, because again, that can affect you going forward. And that's not to put out an air of not wanting to help anybody, but you have to help yourself sometimes, okay? So try to pay your phone bills on time. Try to pay your credit cards on time. These small, insignificant seeming events are very important later on, when, again, you want to rent an apartment, you want to buy your own place, you want to buy your own car. Don't make a mess for just a couple $100s, right? And I know a lot of people out there aren't getting the right information. So it doesn't always have to do with the fact that they don't want to pay. They just maybe had the idea that they had to pay in full. Another thing, just touching on the part of credit, is everything gets reported to something called a credit union. So maybe you've heard of either TransUnion or Equifax. Those are the two big credit unions in Canada. And what they do is, everybody through their social insurance number or their income tax filing number is reported of any trade lines that you have. Trade lines, again, are bank accounts, phone contracts, credit cards. So if you're doing well, it'll show a positive score. If you're doing poorly, it'll also reflect that. There are some really cool apps, again, with your own financial institution, or you can check them out on either the App Store or the Google Play. And it talks a little bit about credit score. You can manage your credit score. Be wary of the ones that you have to pay for. Most people don't really need to pay for something like that in order to get their credit score. Banks are not necessarily going to give you a credit score if you don't apply for credit. Another thing that I would discourage, that sometimes a lot of people don't know, including myself before I joined the bank, the more applications that you do, it's worse for you. So if you go from bank to bank to bank asking for multiple credit cards, it might seem tempting because $500 is not a lot, or maybe the limit is not the best. But what ends up happening is it ends up taking points off of your bureau, and it'll essentially lower your score. So for a lot of you that are just getting out there and starting your credit, You might want to get one Visa from one institution and maybe a MasterCard. I know even stores like the President's Choice and Walmart, they offer MasterCards as well. Some places don't take Visa or some places don't take MasterCard. So it is maybe in your best interest to have one of each, especially for some of us that travel outside the country. I know in Latin America and some parts of the Caribbean, they prefer MasterCard, whereas in Canada, it tends to be more towards the Visa. I'm not endorsing either of the two. I'm just saying sometimes it is good to have one of each so that if you do get stuck in a situation where one institution or one place of business doesn't take one, at least you've got the other. And of course, online banking. A lot of you that are tech savvy are doing everything online. You're able to check things on. You're able to check everything on your device, on your phone. Almost every single bank in Canada does have a banking app, so keep an eye on things. And I think that that's actually something that the newer generation is really proactive in doing. Another thing that I wanted to touch on in terms of what I'm seeing a lot with the younger generation is getting involved in stocks. So now, given the global situation, we're seeing a lot of folks that are getting into stocks, which was typically reserved for the very sophisticated, the very wealthy. We've got anything from kids that are 18 years old and are doing their research on the stock apps on the phones. They're doing a lot of online stuff. There's a lot of financial coaches. Beware, do your research. I'm not anti-stock. I'm actually pro-stocks. But again, do your research before you get involved. And we can go all the way to 90-year-old grandmothers that were very conservative in their investing, and now they're starting to get involved in stocks. So for some of you that have maybe done a little bit of research on this, or maybe you've heard some buzz with some of your friends or online, some of the YouTube videos that are coming out right now, what's happening is the market is on sale. So everything is at an all-time low. A lot of people are doing their research and they're purchasing things now, maybe to secure their financial future. My advice, and I'm not allowed to endorse any one particular stock, is try to go after things that are tried, tested, and true. Sometimes the things that are overly trendy, again, if you don't have time to monitor them by the hour, you could lose a lot of money. So if you're comfortable on taking a risk, by all means, go ahead. But I would say go into things that make money for sure. Those would be things like some of the commodities that we've got, oil, gas, the banks, government bonds, some larger companies as well, some of the technological companies, some of the health sciences. We're noticing now that a lot of people are coming in and opening them up. You can open them up online. You just have to put in a couple bucks and buy whatever amount of shares. The idea is not necessarily to buy and sell within minutes, but to hold on to them. Something that you might be buying today for $100 can eventually be worth $10,000. So something definitely to look into. I know that a lot of young people are also looking into taking advantage of what's called a tax-free savings account. For those of you that don't know, it is an account that the Canadian government established in 2009, and it allows Canadians or Canadian residents to save money tax-free. Now, it doesn't mean that the money goes in there is tax-free. It's whatever amount you make on there is not subject to any income taxes. So for those of you that are students, you're younger, you might not have a high income, it may not affect you in the sense that you're going to pay big tax on $100 that you make in a savings account, but it's a good pattern to get started. And again, why would you want to declare any earnings to the Canadian government? I mean, without sounding overly critical, I think a lot of us pay a lot of taxes. And if we can reduce that, all the better. Aside from having tax-free savings accounts and stocks, you can open up RSPs, which would help save for your retirement. I know that that seems like light years away for some of us, but slow and steady wins the race. We've got people coming in, they're starting their first full-time job. The minimums are usually $25 a month. So if you put $25 from when you're 18 or 20 and you multiply it until you're 65, plus the interest that the bank is going to pay you, you can retire a lot more comfortably than someone that hasn't put any money towards that. And I know retirement is something that a lot of really younger people don't show too much of an interest in sometimes because, again, it seems like such a long time away. But remember, it comes sooner than you think, and you can use that money to buy your first property as well. So it's not that that money is something that you're not going to see for decades. You can use it towards the purchase of your first property. You can use it to go back to school when you're an adult. So I know myself, I went to university, and then when I went back to work, it was in my best interest to go back to college and upgrade. So we're seeing tons of people, pursuing one degree, and then when they go to work, it turns out that they need a little bit more education. So having that extra money there It seems like they're tightening the belt also with OSAP and that. So, just think about what you might want to do later on. I know, again, when we're younger, we're thinking about the here and now, but I'm really impressed with this generation. I see that people have a lot more vision. I see that people have a lot more foresight. We're dealing with people that are a lot more tech savvy than those of us that are in our 30s. They're willing to take a lot more risks, which I think is fantastic. There's also, especially in the local community, there is a major entrepreneurial spirit. There's a lot of businesses that are coming up, and some people say, well, there's already so many people doing this and there's already so many people doing that. My encouragement is try it out. With all the social media platforms that we have right now, whether it's food, whether it's branding, whether it's music production, whether it's some cultural things that we're seeing in the local community. You're catering to a niche market. There is a market. So for some of you that are even doing it kind of as a side hustle, I strongly encourage you to definitely make an appointment with a financial advisor. Talk to them a little bit about your business, just to touch a little bit on small businesses. I know that young folks sometimes think that starting a business is for adults, for people that are in their 30s and 40s. But again, through this pandemic, we've seen a lot of startup businesses for really young demographic, and it only costs $60 to register a business. You can do that through Service Ontario. You can do it online. With that license, you can go and open up an account. If you're not having a ton of activity, it's not necessary that you open up a bank account, but keep track of what's coming in and what's going out. I've seen some really creative businesses that are selling wonderful products, whether it's something like costume jewelry, again, branded merchandise. I've got one girl, she's doing some really cool Christian branded merchandise as well for the local churches. And don't sleep on some of these businesses. Some of them are doing extremely well. There's a lot of cultural food that's coming out. People want to share their local foods on things like the Skip the Dishes apps and DoorDash. And it's really important that you get the right information, because there's a lot of money out there. One of the last things I wanted to touch on was the CEBA and also the Black Entrepreneurship Program. So earlier this year, Prime Minister Trudeau announced that there will be over, if I'm not mistaken, it's over $220 million that will be invested in Black-owned businesses. And although there's not too many details about it now, I think that they're working out all the qualifications, the criteria, how they're going to screen. But that's something that a lot of my clients are definitely asking about. Once I have a little bit more information, I'll definitely be sharing it with the group. And my understanding is that they are highlighting a focus on helping folks out, especially in the Black community, get access to some funding to start up their businesses, so that you don't have to borrow the money, so that you don't have to sometimes go to family and friends. Sometimes some of us have most of our family back home. So this is a great opportunity for the government to step in and say, hey, you might not have anybody here that might help you, and you might not want to pay high interest on the money, but the government is going to step in and help start some of these really exciting businesses. So once I get a little bit more information, I'll definitely be forwarding that to the group. The CEBA, which is a business loan, again, for some of you that have a business account active already, the government was rolling out up to $40,000. $10,000 of that is forgiven. So if you know some family or friends, if you know anybody in the local community that maybe their business is suffering a little bit, they're struggling paying workers, they're struggling with inventory, definitely tell them to check out CEBA. Okay, it's CEBA, and through their local financial institution, they can apply online and receive up to $40,000 based on payroll. So there are a lot of cool incentives out there right now. I think the question right now is just getting information, asking the right questions. Again, book an appointment with an advisor, half an hour. That's what the banks are paying us to do. So I know a lot of us are home right now, or school is online. Take your time. Some financial institutions are even open on the weekend. So book a half an hour with somebody, and or pick up the phone and even call an advisor on the phone if you've got any questions. The information is completely free. You can also check out your local bank's website and do a little bit of research there. And with that information, you can go forward and change your circumstances.
Thank you so much, Ava. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The misconception of how banks are not just here to help the wealthy, but they're here to help anyone that is willing to build their credit and financial status. It really just shows that there's a lot more insight that people need to realize about how banks and financial work, like everything about financial literacy. So we have a few questions, if you don't mind.
Yep.
First question I'll ask. The question is, what is the bank's opinion on digital currencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum, if I pronounced it right. Ethereum.
Okay, so there's been a lot of talk in the last couple years about Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I don't have any I'm not going to share any personal views, but typically the banks don't sell those. You'd have to go to your own licensed dealer. A lot of them are private. I know that at one point it was doing really well. I also know of some clients that have lost a significant amount of money with it. There's some folks that have done well with it. It's a very risky type of currency. I think what attracts a lot of people is the anonymity of it, the fact that it's anonymous. Whereas the regular banking system, you know, your name is attached to it, your social insurance is attached to it. There's a little bit more accountability. The banks don't sell or receive any of those currencies. So if you're interested in something like that, again, you'd have to go to a private dealer. I think for some of us that are teeter-tottering with the idea, or maybe we don't know enough about it, I would strongly encourage you to do some online research. Um, I don't want to criticize anybody for buying it because, again, there are some folks that have done really well with it. I myself have stayed away from it just because I've seen some things that you know are not so favorable. I think cash is king. I think at the end of the day, whether it is a direct deposit or cash, it's a lot more tangible. What ends up happening sometimes with some of these but then you don't get that back. So just some food for thought. I'm not saying that don't get involved or don't do it, but just do your research. But the banks, unfortunately, will not help facilitate any purchase or sale of that.
Yeah, that is totally and completely understandable. On to the next question. As a young 18-year-old kid trying to build their credit from an early age and wants to start getting a credit card soon, how do I approach choosing which bank to trust when there are so many different options and so a plethora of research to do?
Well, I think a lot of times that it'll depend on if you've already got a bank account or not. If you've already got a bank account, that same bank would probably be more likely to give you the credit card because they see a pattern. So we've got a lot of folks that come into my bank on a day-to-day basis and they don't have a bank account with us. And they'll say that they want to apply for a credit card. There is a chance that they will get the credit card, but it's a little bit hard for us to make the decision because we can't see regular activity going through the bank account. So let's say that your principal institution is CIBC, for instance. Well, if CIBC holds your account and they can see your regular deposits, it would make most sense to go with them. Another thing that you could definitely look into is proximity. Maybe you want to pick the bank that's closest to your home or school or place of work. In terms of workplace, sometimes we end up working downtown, but we live maybe in the North York area. Well, you might not work forever downtown, so you might want to pick something closer to home. Do your research. I mean, you can go on all the bank's websites and have a look at the cards. I think for, again, the 25 and under group, don't pay unnecessary fees. Don't give the banks more money than they've already got. Pick
Yeah.
something that's free. Pick something that you could pay online. Again, most of the 6 major banks have that. So, I mean, I'm not partial to any one institution. I don't care where you go and get your credit card. Just do the appropriate research in terms of one that maybe is low interest or low fee. No fee would be the best. And pick something maybe that's either close to home or at a location that you can pop in if something goes wrong. Um,
Mhm.
and check that out online for sure. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Speaking of choosing the right financial opportunities, the next question we have here is, what are the financial opportunities for the youth because of COVID-19?
Well, that's a great question. Financial opportunities in a lot of different ways. I know that some children, some youth that are working in the restaurant business, the retail business, a lot of folks have gotten laid off, and it's heartbreaking. And I think that we can all see it. And we don't know what's coming for Christmas, whether they're going to extend retail hours. Some of you that were working in the clothing store, some of you that were working again in the restaurant businesses, in the food delivery, in the drive-throughs, etc. This is all temporary. Okay, this is not going to last forever. We're seeing again a lot of really creative businesses. A lot of people are selling masks. A lot of people are doing the food stuff. A lot of people are doing tutoring. I mean, there's some young people that have come in and they're helping some of the younger kids with the homework for the ones that are doing online. Aside from starting little startup businesses, there are other companies that are hiring. So maybe if you're used to working in a clothing store, maybe it's time to look into something like the Amazons, the Walmarts, Instacart. I know tons of people that are now doing Instacart, Uber Eats, for those of you that have access to a car. you name it. Uber itself it has slowed down a lot because there's not as many activities taking place. In terms of financial opportunity for youth, think outside the box. Okay, again, you go work for Amazon or Walmart or Instacart. You do that for a little bit. At least it's still a steady income, right? Some people are taking some online courses now that they've got a little bit of time, whether those are financial literacy courses, doing some online research. Again, back to the point about stocks, we've got tons of people coming in with a lot of great information about what they've seen online, and they're doing some stuff with financial coaches online. Again, be wary of things that you've got to pay for, because this type of information 9 times out of 10 is completely free. So take advantage of those resources. Another thing that the youth definitely can look into is establishing your credit, establishing your banking. Now that everyone's got a little bit of time on their hands, for those of you that are working, maybe doing your taxes, filing your tax return. For those of you that are working with a valid social insurance number, just kind of getting everything in order so that 2021 can be great. Looking forward, in terms of establishing your financial health.
Thank you. Thank you for answering that question. Hopefully, Ava answered that question to the best of her ability. Thank you again, Ava, for coming out and giving some of your valuable time and blessing us with some of your wise words of wisdom about financial literacy.
Thank you. Okay, let me know if you need anything else. We're here for you. And food for thought. I think 2021 is going to be a great year. 2020 taught us a lot, and don't sell yourself short. Get the information you need. Reach out to the people that are out here to help you, and there's no telling what the youth of today can do.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Now, before we move on to our next panelist, we must take a very short commercial break.
Hey everyone, I'm Tom Rakosovic, Member of Provincial Parliament for my lifelong home riding of Humber River Black Creek here at Queen's Park today. I want to wish you a very special congratulations. Congratulations to Why Not, Pastor Francis, all of the volunteers and organizers, but most of all, congratulations to the students. You are our future, and within this program, you are learning to be leaders, and you will be mentored to think about tomorrow, because one day our lives are going to be in your hands. You're going to learn all about technology, artificial intelligence, environmental sustainability, a personal favorite of mine, and I hope you will plant many trees throughout your lives. I just want to wish you all the best in this program, and I want to wish you and your family health and prosperity in this future. We're all in this together. Take care.
Thank you again, Tom, for wise words of support to the people of the community, the youth of tomorrow, because we could use as much support and energy to accomplish our future goals as much as possible. Thank you so much, Tom. Now, I would like to move forward to the next panelist for tonight's event. She'll also be breaking down the importance of owning your life and taking as much control of it as much as possible. She is also a CEO of Fletcher's Business Services in Toronto, Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Anne Fletcher.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Anne Fletcher. Thank you for welcoming me to this forum. After listening to Eva this evening, there's not much that I need to add in terms of youth and financial literacy. I realize that she has covered most of it. So I am going to focus mainly on students that are in high school or college and the things that they need to know in order to move forward. So let's look at youth and financial literacy and what that means. Financial literacy is the ability to understand and effectively use various financial skills, including personal financial management, budgeting, and investing. This is the possession of a set of skills and knowledge that allows an individual to have informed and effective decisions, to make informed and effective decisions with all of their financial resources. This is extremely important for you in order to make progress in your everyday life. So I know for the youths, for example, everywhere they go these days, they're inundated with ads and persons offering them credit cards. They're offering them credit cards in the malls. They're offering them credit cards at schools. They're offering them credit cards in the stores. So, parents, it is very important that you develop your kids' character and spirituality, but also it is important for you to develop their financial literacy skill. And a lot of times in life, we totally forget that aspect of their lives. Parents, let me ask you this question. Are you financially literate? You need to understand the role of the game, because if we don't understand it, we cannot teach it. So today we're going to look at a checklist of financial literacy that our young youths need to understand. First of all, they need to understand what is income. They need to understand what is expense. They need to understand what is assets. They need to understand what is liabilities. They need to understand what it means to balance the checkbook. They need to understand what is compound interest. They need to understand the basis of investment and how to run a small business. This checklist that we're going to look at today is divided into various categories, which is relevant to your basic financial living. The basis of debt on understanding what credit card debt means, what car payment debt means, what budgeting and understanding money in and money out means. These stuff can sometimes seem very basic if you're not financially literate. If you are not financially literate, you have to worry about your spending. You have to worry about how you're going to meet your goals, like buying a car or paying for tuition during your college years. Let's break down income and what this really is. Incomes mean the money coming in and how you make it. And you might ask me, what is expense? Expense is the money you pay for goods and services. It is money going out. How do you spend money you have earned? Do you even know where your money goes? You'll be surprised, but many people really don't even know this. First, we must learn how to make a financial budget and learn how to execute upon it. Like, for example, under your fixed expenses, you have $2,000 coming in and $1,500 worth of fixed expenses. You need your fixed expenses to be always lower than the income you have coming in. If not, you're spending more than you earn, which will lead to debt. Then we're going to take a look at assets and what assets are. Youths, assets are stuff you own. Everything from your savings account to owning a car, these are considered your assets. The road to building assets starts with savings. So I encourage all high school students with a part-time job to start saving. This is very important. It is habit forming. Get into the practice of putting money aside, like $5 a week, $10 a week, $25 a week for unexpected expense, like replacing your cell phone or even repairing your car. Then the youths might ask me, what is liability? Liability means the debt you owe. A lot of people are getting into financial trouble by constantly spending more than they actually earn. Because credit is readily available to everyone today, which can be both good and bad. It is good because credit can enhance your ability to understand attractive investment such as a college education or buying a home. However, credit can be bad. Example, you and a group of friends decide to go out for an evening. You're going to McDonald's or Burger King or any one of these stores with your friends to buy burger. You're using a credit card. You're actually using money that you actually do not own. You're actually borrowing to buy this burger. And then guess what? That is debt that you must repay. Let's now take a look at budgeting and what budgeting really is, what really means. So, basic budgeting, you cannot grow or build wealth if you don't understand the simple basis of budgeting. It is knowing where your money is coming from and where the money is going. I can't tell you how many people are wasting their money on the things that they don't really care about. How many times we go out there and we buy things that we really don't even need just to throw it in the garbage later? Ask yourself, would you rather pay your money on a vacation or would you rather pay it on a next Netflix bill? So it is very important that you budget for your money. You understand where your money is going. Some people think that budgeting is restricting and controlling. But the fact is, it actually helps you to discover those things that you're paying on, that you're throwing away money on, or instead of investing or applying to the things that matter. So budgeting helps you to understand where your money is going. It helps you to understand the things that are important in comparison to the things that are less important. It helps you to understand what is priority from what is not priority. I encourage you to practice the cash budgeting system. Every week, each time you get your paycheck, I would encourage you to put it into different envelopes that are earmarked for certain bills and expenses for that particular week. Example, put an envelope aside for your car payment, an envelope aside for your grocery bill, an envelope aside for your utility bills, and an envelope aside for your entertainment. So whatever those items are, your money is already spoken for before you spend it. And understand that once the money is gone, once the money inside the envelope is gone, you are done. You have no more money to spend on that particular expense. And you'll be surprised that a lot of people practice this and it works. Balancing checkbook. I know a lot of you millennials out there are saying, what is she talking about checkbook? I've never seen a checkbook. I understand that you're millennials. You don't write checks. You don't even own a checkbook. You do everything online. You do everything electronically. You do electronic banking. But someday, somehow, you would need to be able to know how much money you have left into your bank account. Your bank account, you don't want to be at the checkout counter, crossing your fingers and praying, dear Lord, let there be money in my bank account. I don't want to face that embarrassment. Or better yet, you don't want to give a check to your landlord only to find out that the check bounced. Because when that check bounces, you know what happens? The bank charges you $45 for that NSF charge. And on top of that, your landlord charges you a service fee. So upwards of $45. So if the bank charges you $45 for that NSF check, and your landlord charges you another $45, you're out another $90. So you can imagine, in the first place, you had no money into your account. You're broke. And on top of that, you have another liability of $90 that you need to pay. So before we get to that, we need to learn how to balance that checkbook. Okay, next we are going to look at the power of compounding interest. And power of compounding interest. Do you know that if you invest $100 per month with an average return of 8%, After 30 years, you will have tens of $1,000s in your pocket. And it does not have to be $100. It could be $25, it could be $10, it could be $5. Whatever amount you can afford, it is very important that you start investing. You're never too young to start investing your money. Believe me, I have tried it. I've tried it with all my kids as well, and it worked. Basis of investing. Some people have jobs, and this is something that is so prevalent and mostly overlooked. Some people have jobs that they have been working at for so many years. I see that on a daily basis. And a lot of these jobs have investment options, but these persons have not signed up for them. Why they haven't signed up for them? Because they don't know how to choose these investments. They have absolutely no clue what they are. So I'm going to share a story that somebody shared about a high school student who was mowing lawn. He saved up $500 from mowing the lawn. Someone helped him to do some research and helped him to pick good mutual funds. And by investing an additional $25 on the money that he saved, he would have made about over $500,000 in 30 years by choosing the right investment. So it is very important that you speak to the expert, speak to persons that have the knowledge base when it comes to investing, RSP, stocks, mutual funds. Speak to your banking representative. Speak to financial advisors, because the earlier you start, the better it is for you. And lastly, we are going to look at how to start a successful business, because we have a number of young people today that are starting businesses. They have various business ideas. In light of COVID, so many things have changed. You have so many instant millionaires today because young kids are very innovative. You have 6 and 7-year-olds that are out there doing business. So it is never too young to start. So you're in high school, you're in college, but it's never too early to learn how to start a business. So let's look at the bare bone basic. Some things that you need to know is how to do customer service right. Some of us take that for granted, but it is very critical, very crucial in running a business. Your customers are your asset, so it's very important that they're always treated with respect. When the customer comes into your office or comes into your place of business, they must always feel appreciated. Another thing that is important too is how to balance a budget. You're running a business, you need to understand what money is coming in and what money is going out, whether or not you're making a profit or whether or not you're making a loss. That is something that is very crucial to understand when you're running a business. Another important thing is how to market your business. It is very important that we learn how to market our business. Today, in light of social media, today, in light of so many different platforms, it is so easy for us to market our business these days. Gone are the days when you had to pay the various newspaper outlet, you had to get a TV ad to do your advertisement. Those days are pretty much over. You can pretty much do it yourself. So it's very important that you learn how to market your business. Even learning how to give a proper handshake is important, because some of us don't know the importance of that handshake. It speaks a lot about your character, and it speaks a lot about your confidence. And saying something and following through, that is also very, very critical in business. Saying something and following through. It is very important that we say what we mean. It is very important that we're honest with our customers. It is very important that our customers can rely on us. Well, thank you very much for sharing this platform with me. It was a pleasure talking to everybody. You take care of your money, youths, and your money will take care of you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Anne, on discussing the importance of being aware about everything that has to do with maintaining and strengthening not only your financial status, but your knowledge of the concept as a whole. Now we'll move on to the Q&A section of your presentation. So the
Thank
first
you.
question that we have is, as a Black woman who has done very well in raising your children and in business, what advice do you have for fellow Black women, especially in supporting their children?
I would encourage all Black women never to give up. Sometimes it can seem challenging and daunting.
Yes.
Sometimes it seems very, very difficult, but always forge through. Look for that peephole. And once you see that peephole, force yourself through. Make sure you get your kids involved in different activities. Make sure you're socializing them. Make sure you're getting an education. Make sure you're looking for business opportunities. Make sure you're looking for opportunities out there. Make sure you're aligning yourself with the right persons that have the capability to open doors for you. And once you have all of that together, the sky's the limit with where you can go. And it is very crucial also to ensure that your kids have a good education.
Mm, I love it. I love it. I hope the question was answered to the best of her ability. We'll move on to the second and final question for Anne's presentation. Please, can you share with us the major factor that contributed to your successfulness in business?
The major factor that contributed to my successfulness in business is seeking out opportunities and move towards that. For me, I am very determined, very resilient, and I never take no for an answer. As long as the opportunities are there, I give nobody the opportunity to stop me. And also, it is very important that you understand the industry that you're in. It is very important that you also research the industry that you're in. It is very important that you seek mentors that are in that particular industry. And it is also very important that you follow all policies and procedures as per that industry. So that is pretty much the model that I use for business. And that's one of the things that made me successful. And I like to diversify myself as well. So therefore, if there's one industry that is not doing well, at least there is something else that I have to draw back on. That's what helps me to be successful.
I love it. Yes, yes. It looks like we have time for one more question. Between savings and investments, which should be considered more when making a financial budget?
Okay, so it is very important you're saving. It depends on your age. So a number of factors you need to take into consideration. How much money you have. What place are you in your life? Are you a 16-year-old? Are you older? So there's a number of variables that you first need to consider before you determine whether you're going to first look at your savings or you're going to look at investment. Do you have enough money to start investing? Okay, do you have an immediate need that you need to save for? So it's very difficult to answer that question without knowing all of these different variables.
That is totally understandable. Hopefully, in due time, the question will be answered to the best of their ability. But
Absolutely.
nonetheless, thank you so much, Anne, for taking some time out of your day and teaching everyone here tonight on being responsible of one's financial status and one's financial intelligence.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Youth Now on Track, for having me, and have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, before we end tonight's event, I must give you all what you desire most. What you've been craving for weeks. I hear you. I hear you. I am a man of the people. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will give you what you want. And that is a brand new commercial break.
I'm on this virtual call to say hello to everybody who is participating on a virtual basis, that's participating in Youth Now on Track, an organization led by Pastor Francis and his family that I have supported for many, many years in all the endeavors that they continue to do. So now the issue is you're doing a seminar that's asking what is the future? And I ask that you think about the future, not just today, but the future for the next 20 years. What do you want to be doing 20 years from now? What do you think the world needs to be doing? Part of your role is also as a young person is to be an advocate for change. And that's what this seminar will help you do, is think about the future, the next 20 years, and what are we all going to be doing? What do we need to be doing on climate change? What about the economy? I know those are big issues, but those are issues that are going to affect all of you who are attending this program this weekend significantly. So I ask that you apply your intelligence and your time and your effort. Have a good session. I look forward to hearing how you're all doing. What is the result? Where do you want to see the future go, and how are you going to participate? We all have a major responsibility. It's not something that you can ignore. The more you contribute, the better the world will be. So as we continue to fight this coronavirus, stay safe, stay strong, and know that your government is there to protect you and your family, and we are not going to stop until we have eliminated this virus and make sure that everybody in Canada has access to a vaccine. So please enjoy your weekend. Congratulations to Pastor Francis and Why Not for the great work that you continue to do. And I look forward to getting a report back on how the weekend has gone. All the very best.
Thank you so much, Judy, for your empowering words for the youth of tomorrow and your support for this event. Now, before we officially end off, my good friend Mike Jadeo has a few words to share with all of you.
Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you for doing this, by the way. You've been an amazing host for the past 2 days. The questions have been amazing from the group. The panelists have been awesome. I've been taking a lot of what everybody's been, saying and trying to express. It would appear to me that the panelists are attempting to motivate. We're trying to light a fire under everyone. We're trying to let them know that there's opportunities after COVID. If I were to paraphrase in a quote what I think we're trying to achieve here, I think we're trying to tell everyone that risk cannot be destroyed. Risk cannot be destroyed. Risk can only be transformed. Hofstein said that. Risk cannot be destroyed. Risk can only be transformed. As much as it might be easy to despair because of all of the negative environmental externalities, let's say, I think it's important to remember that all of us are essentially facing the same negative externalities, aren't we? If we're all running the same race, we're essentially all on the same earthquake during the Olympics. Now, the race is still going, and whoever crosses that finish line is who we're going to talk about, and everybody else we won't. Now, we ask ourselves then, what do I need to do to generate revenue? I imagine that many of the people on this call will have minimized their costs as much as they can. But minimizing costs and generating recurring revenue are two different things. And I think we could all agree that while a penny saved is a penny earned, it's never been more confusing on how to generate revenue. How might we attract revenue, either as an employee or as a startup entrepreneur? Now, I could go into goals, objectives, plans, strategies, and tactics. I could talk about target market segmentation, or the 6 environments like the political, the economic, the sociocultural, the technological, the competitive. Forget about all that stuff. You could have a PhD in business, but if you did not believe in yourself and believe that you personally had control over your own situation, I'm not sure what education could do for you. Does that make sense? I see a lot of people that are coming to this country for the first time, and they have more hope in their eyes than the people who have been here for a long time. You know, Voltaire said, history is filled with the sounds of silk slippers going downstairs and wooden shoes coming up. When I go to my pharmacy, I see an immigrant as the pharmacist. When I go to my doctor, it's also an immigrant. When I go to my data scientist, that's often an immigrant too. And so I really believe that we're in such a unique time, but there are people who have prepared themselves for this moment, and there is people who have not. And me personally, as a headhunter launching startups, I have a lot of executives asking me for my help to get them Fortune 500 jobs. And unfortunately, I have to tell them that they're not prepared for the fourth industrial revolution. And there's no easy way to prepare someone for the fourth industrial revolution overnight, because software has eaten the world. So how do you bank now that software has eaten the world? Right? How do you build a career now that software has eaten the world? You know, a lot of people think they should become a data scientist. They should become a software engineer. You know, Akon lit Africa with songs like I Wanna Make Love Right Now, Now, Now. So sure, we could be software engineers. Sure, we could be data scientists. But I think when things get so confused, our compass is turning and turning. And sometimes we forget to strike that balance between what the market wants and what our soul wants. And I don't think there's an easy balance there. But I know you can't be on any one extreme for too long. And so I guess what I would say is risk cannot be destroyed, risk can only be transformed. If you feel you are at a disadvantage now, probably right. But I'm sure you wouldn't want to trade positions with someone who may not be in Toronto, may not have access to Wi-Fi. You know, we assume when we have a live stream that everyone has access. That couldn't be farther from the truth. There are a lot of people who don't have Wi-Fi and internet access. They're not hearing this message. How might we help them? I mean, we talk about food insecurity. What about information security? Right? Having access to your bank account, things like that. So to end off, we have never been presented with so many threats. But just like energy, value is not being destroyed. Value is changing hands. Through education and the right mentors, you can be a part of that value exchange. But if you don't have access to that member network, how could you ever know how to take part? You know, I always suggest to people, if you're going to go somewhere, your mentor should be someone who has gone there already. Thank you so much, Brian. Thanks for everybody for having me. I'll give it back to you.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you so much, Judy, for your empowering words to the youth of tomorrow. Your insight of how the world is truly groundbreaking. I hope everyone was really able to resonate and settle with everything that Mike just gave to us right now. Again, thank you, Mike, Judy, Tom, Pastor Francis, Marian, Ijeoma, Anne, Ava, and every single one of you guys for joining us here tonight. whether or not you're here for both days, only one day only. Thank you so much to Why Not Services for your hard work in building the youth of tomorrow through inspirational and empowering events such as these, while putting a smile on every child's face through many fun events you hold during your annual summer camp. See, for those who don't know, I'm just a little 19-year-old man trying to figure out how to navigate my way through this thing called life. And the year 2020 will truly go down in history as one of the most unforgettable years of them all. But having empowering events and a community such as these and learning from one of the greatest minds on the planet puts me at ease. And when I mean by ease, I don't mean contentment, but I mean empowerment. The ability to go out and chase my dreams and goals by any means necessary. To not allow the craziness of life to break me, but to shape me into a diamond that will shine brighter than my own future. Having many people surrounding and supporting and believing in the future of tomorrow truly does fuel me to have a burning fire within, and that will allow me to continue to spread the message of love and hope to whomever I cross paths with, so everybody will feel warm inside. Nobody knows how exactly the future will look. Heck, nobody knows how 2021 will be. But I do know that as long as we continue to reinforce the importance of being a part of a community that is filled with love, empathy, understanding, knowledge, personal responsibility, and awareness, not only will the future of tomorrow, but the human race as a whole truly will see better and brighter days. Once again, thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone, for joining us for the 2020 Youth Leadership and Empowerment Forum Conference. We appreciate each and every single one of you for your support, because if it wasn't for all of you, we would not be having this event. And with that being said, please, 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 please do your very best to never forget that you have the potential to be excellent. And until next time,